That duality is like the pole. It takes us to the height, but then gotta let it go to eventually cross the bar, cross over into non-duality. We are back. Recently, we were talking about the levels of our relationship with the divine. Levels of sophistication that different traditions take and different individuals take within each tradition, because every major tradition offers the elementary all the way to the 501 level, graduate, postgraduate courses and nuances and subtleties. The lowest level, the elementary version, the third grade version of a tradition, is built around fear. Do this to avoid an eternal lake of fire. Next level is reward. Do this in order to get an eternal state of bliss. But the ultimate level, the most advanced level that transcends both of these and moves well beyond selfish aversions, selfish desires, and enters territory of selflessness. The third level is surrender. From fear to reward to surrender. It's a progression. You don't start with surrender. It's in the nonprofit realm. My undergrad degree was in development economics, studying development. My undergraduate degree was in development economics, so economics of developing regions around the world. And my first job was working in poverty alleviation in South Africa. And the nonprofit that I worked at, everybody learns this commitment curve, that you can't just ask people for a massive $25,000 capital commitment to hit your yearly budget. That you start with letting them know that you exist. Then you show them images, some media of the work that you do, of your organization. Then you invite them on a tour. Then you ask them if they'd like to join a small capital campaign. We've got this small fundraiser, even if you can join for $5. And you work them all the way up. It's called the commitment curve. Work them all the way up. And it's so hilarious. Humans are so good, even in a nonprofit setting, especially in a nonprofit setting, because there are consultants that teach this commitment curve to every nonprofit, and or any that sign up for the really advanced techniques to fundraise. Commitment curve. You don't, similarly, philosophies, world traditions, they don't ask you to surrender everything in the first 5 minutes. They don't tell you that that's even beneficial, perhaps, first 5 minutes. But every major tradition has this progression. Maybe it's built out of their own benefit of, donate everything you got, and it's the largest organized religion in the neighborhood. And they do understand these commitment curve aspects. Or maybe it is a philosophy that has no overarching authoritative kind of organized hierarchy around it. It's just a philosophy of, Socratic philosophy. There's no organization that benefits from, none that I'm a part of that I know of, that benefit from us seeing value in the Socratic ideal of emptying oneself of what we think we know. Socrates famously saying, "I know nothing." That's a surrender. That's an advanced level. That's 501 level stuff. That might come at the end of a life spent studying, observing, exploring, examining. You get to a place where you say, I don't know anything. Surrender to, I'm just watching all of this take place. Certainly not the third grade version. That's not where the syllabus starts with someone like Socrates. And within Advaita Vedanta, which means non-dual end of knowledge, there is a progression Similar progression to something like Christianity that goes from the dual to the non-dual. Non-dual, as we've covered in this podcast project before, non-dual means not two. It's just another way and maybe a more complete way of saying one or oneness or unity. The reason that it's said this way as not two is because oneness, or we are all one, or this is all one, implies that there's a boundary around it, a border around it. Subtle implication that maybe isn't even registered by most, but it is implied when we say that the truth is that we are all one. To improve it slightly, like a modicum of improvement, 5% improvement, the language, and oneness is certainly used within this philosophy, but to improve it slightly within Eastern traditions like Vedanta, the word non-dual is used, not two, because there's no implication. It's a 5% improvement where there's no implication of a border or a boundary. To say that there is not two. There are no separations within this universe, this experience. It's just a perceived perception of separation. But then you'll find within this philosophy a perceived and amplified within the philosophy perception between a student and a teacher. And that's duality. A student and their practice. That's duality. That's separation. That's certainly not, it's all one. And that's because this philosophy takes us from the known to the unknown. Every great teacher, every great syllabus takes us from the known to the unknown. It doesn't just start in the unknown. Christ has countless parables about a duality within life. His works, healing, and then saying your faith has healed you. There is a duality in that. You, your faith in the divine. The non-dual version of Christianity that's in the 501 post-grad camp. That's where the disciples, or us through the Gospels, hear him pray that each of the disciples and each of us see the unity that he himself has with the Father, and prays for us to see that unity with him. He's speaking from the perspective of God. He's not speaking from the perspective of this 5'4" Jesus character, however tall he was. He's speaking as once that revelation, that realization, that enlightenment is, once it has been attained, and that language fails here because it's not attained. It's discovered, realized. Once it is realized, all duality falls by the wayside. You're speaking from the divine. That's why all the sages throughout history that have reached that state say, follow me, or place your trust into me. They're speaking from the place of the divine. If you buy into this idea that there is a non-dual reality. But, like I said, they take you from the known to the unknown. We do not, if we're perceiving this universe, this experience here, then we have not had that revelation, that realization. We perceive duality. So this philosophy takes us from where we are to where we're going, from the dual to the non-dual. That duality is emphasized in a teacher-student relationship. That duality is emphasized in the individual and their practice, the daily practice, the individual and the philosophy. It is emphasized. The three yogas, the three classical yogas, are karma yoga, bhakti yoga, and jnana yoga. Karma is service and action for your community. That's extremely dualistic. You, your community. You serving your community. Bhakti, devotional, also extremely dualistic. There is a place, a revered place for the dualism of recognizing, I can offer this to my community, or I am devoted to this teacher or this path. I'm devoted to my craft, to my professional contribution to those around me. I'm devoted to my children. I'm devoted to my parents. That is a duality, and that is highly beneficial for our spiritual upliftment, our spiritual evolution. But we take these towards non-duality, towards transcending these perceptions of duality. In fact, they are the paths that can help us immensely to transcend. Very few, maybe one in a few centuries, are born right into the non-dual, go straight to the non-dual, had one last remaining desire, and boom, realized, and all they see is unity. Everyone else, we must know our level. We see duality. We've got to use that. Like the pole vaulter, you use the pole to jump over the bar, but you can't jump over the bar with the pole. You can't jump over the bar without the pole. Swami says so often, you can't jump over the bar with the pole, but you can't jump over the bar without the pole. That duality is like the pole that takes us to the height, but then you've got to let it go to eventually cross the bar, cross over into non-duality. This reflection is on the heels of a question I got recently talking about, well, so much of the philosophy talks about duality. And that's right. So much of the GPS, the directions to get from where we are to where we're going, so much of it seems so far from where we're going. And that's because if it's a good GPS, a good navigation system, it's going to meet you where you are and take you where you want to be. And this philosophy has a healthy dose of the progression beyond just the dual to the non-dual, from fear to reward to surrender. Fear of, God, I do not want to tie myself into knots and find myself in that position again, or that unnecessary suffering that I cause by being so attached to results or attached to people. It's a healthy dose of that. And then you graduate to reward of, man, I want to seek the higher because it benefits me. Life is so much more peaceful. I'm so much better at my job when I'm seeking the higher, when I'm doing this for my community. But then you get to surrender. You're like, man, I have loved being on this path, and starting to get a sense it's going to ask more of me and more of me. The end of the path is give yourself completely to those around you. Give yourself completely. Identify completely with your community, then your state, then your country, then all human beings, then all living beings. And luckily, it happens so naturally. You see the wisdom in it. You see it work. You're like, God, the more I give, the better I feel. That's one of my favorite principles. Nothing feels as good as doing what you ought to do. One of my favorite principles within this philosophy. Nothing feels as good as doing what you ought to do. And you start to see this surrender to your family, to your job, to your community. And you're like, yeah, this is an optimal way of living. This is a manual for living. But you look back at a prior you 5 years ago and you'd be like, I would have never voluntarily just been on call with my kids to give my wife a break for 4 days straight. It would have been like tooth and nail, my wife pleading with me for me to do it. And now I'm like telling her, go on a trip, because it feels so good inside to become that kind of lighthouse within your household or your community. Just feels so good. The admiration from your spouse just keeps growing. Love from your community continues to grow, and you just find yourself slipping into that surrender. Nothing unnatural. Similarly, I can only reference what we're told because I've not had this experience. Similarly, and I can only reference what the sages say because I have not had this experience. But similarly, we slide more and more from the dual into the non-dual. Not just in terms of scriptural reference or conceptual understanding, but experience. You slip from the dual into the non-dual, a natural progression of one leading to the other. And that is today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time.